Yes.
The time is 2 o'clock. We'll call this St. Joseph School District Facilities Committee meeting to order. Items for discussion, SJSD boundaries. What's the vision for SJSD?
Okay, thank you for joining us today. Obviously the question at the top of the paper is pretty easy, right? We went through a process over the last 18 months called Vision Forward, and they have created a broad vision for us as a school district. And so I think we have a vision. We have a vision that was made by several community members over the last 18 months. And so what we need to do now is, I guess 2 facility meetings ago, we had DLR here, and we kind of talked about where we wanted to go. And DLR, the focus the last time in 2019 was a little different than what I think the focus is going to be today and moving forward. And I say that because it was really robust as far as concentrating on high schools before. You know, where we wanted to go with 3 high schools, where we wanted to go with 2 high schools, where we wanted to go with 1. Not that those discussions are moot by any means, but those discussions haven't been necessarily towards the forefront of a lot of the discussions that we've had. It more arose as boundaries. It more arose as fixing the equity amongst the middle school, a consistent model. And so instead of wasting $200,000, you know, paying DLR to come up with a great big schema, a great big document for us to look at, the last conversation I had with them, let's narrow the focus a little bit. You narrow the focus, it's not going to cost you near as much money for me to tell you what needs to be done. And so that's with this 1-page document that you received in an email. I asked you to do a little bit of homework. I apologize, but we only have 1 hour today, so I actually did this activity with the superintendent cabinet, and I actually did this activity with all of the principals in the district. And so I'm just collecting that information. I'm giving that to DLR. I have a phone call with them tomorrow at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So it's going to be kind of a quick turnaround. The good thing, 6 of the 7 board members are here. I was going to do it with the facilities committee and then turn around and do it with the Board of Education at your work session on the 30th. But now we can get it out of the way today, and I'll just talk to Ms. Miller one-on-one since you all are here. So it works out great. And I think that throughout the process, you know, one thing that I heard in Vision Forward, and I didn't go as much as a lot of people in this room, was that they needed a consistent model at the middle school. But I think it was more said that it needed a consistent model, it needed to be 6 through 8. And but I still want to hear what the pros and cons are for 6 through 8, because academically our 6th graders perform pretty high in the buildings that they're in right now in the elementary setting. That is a little bit skewed because those are our better performing schools. And so, you know, you don't want to rely on that, but I also don't want people to be able to voice their opinion in regards to that. So that's why I strictly didn't ask what you thought in regards to 6 through 8. I wanted to hear what people thought 7 through 8. And there were some good points. I think high school open enrollment is something that has to be addressed. Do you want to address it? Do you not want to address it? It obviously goes in with the boundaries. Because if you fix boundaries and you fix them right, then open enrollment probably shouldn't be an option. Because then if you still allow open enrollment, then by right-sizing the district, you're still never going to know where people are going to go, where your 8th graders are going to go year in and year out. So we had a lot of good discussion around that. Principals, a lot more than the superintendent cabinet. The principals, we had a lengthy discussion in regards to that. Initial focus, do you want to go top to bottom? I really think our boundaries are so screwed up, I think it's okay to start in the middle. So if you want to fix the middle school first, I think that's okay. I don't think that would necessarily be something that you would do in every situation, but because of the fixing the boundaries here and fixing the boundaries here and fixing the boundaries here. Over the last 35 years, we've created a mess. This is not something you're going to be able to fix overnight. So, with that being said, I would entertain any questions that you guys might have before we get started. What's going to happen today is we're going to just group you up, and you're going to try to come to a consensus. We don't all want to come to a consensus as one, and you're probably not going to come to a consensus as two, or three, or four. But it will help us drive the discussion. We do have a 3 o'clock stop, and so what we're going to do is I'll put you guys in groups, and then we'll start the conversation about 2:25. That'll give us 35 minutes to discuss each one of the questions or statements that are on there.
All right.
Yeah.
Ask a question. I looked at this and all are good questions to me, but the ranking kind of bothered me about prioritizing why we should change boundaries.
Goes all in, it's all together, isn't it?
Because it's the right thing
Right
to
thing
do.
to do, yeah.
And I hate to discuss these others as if they're an equal reason as the right thing to do. So I mean, they all kind of go together.
There won't be a whole lot of discussion on that one because
Okay.
they all go together, and that's the reason. There was a point behind it.
Okay, I was gonna say, it's just the right thing to do.
Yeah.
I don't know, and
There
I
was a
don't
point
want,
behind that, and it was caught early on in the superintendent cabinet discussion and also in the, but it is the right thing to do with these things in mind.
it'll take care of so many things.
Yeah.
By doing the right thing, it'll fix so many problems we don't even
Yeah.
consider.
So the length of the discussion, I think, to be honest with you, is going to be twofold. It's going to be the 6-8 model and what we need to do to make it right, and it's going to be open enrollment, unfortunately. Those are probably going to be the two discussions that we'll have today. Any questions in regards to that? Okay, Kenitha, I'm going to have you two come over here with Kenitha. You go with Whitney, I apologize.
That's fine.
And then Rick, you come, actually, you three go over there. You two go over there with Rick. And then we don't want to do that. Reader, you come. You guys didn't have a board member, did you? No. Okay, Reader, you come over here. Rich, you go over there. And David, you go with them.
Who's that?
No, I'm sorry, you go over there. Go there with them.
Oh, thank God.
Yeah, you and David.
Just kidding, dude.
Okay, who am I with?
Leslie and Latanya.
Okay.
How are you?
Yeah, go over there.
So Oregon, Missouri.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, not the state.
That's like,
Yeah.
man, you made it back? That's
I didn't
insane.
know Oregon was so close.
Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
Like 30 minutes out of
Is
here.
it in front of Mountain, is it before Mountain City?
To be honest with you, this is going to be a discussion. I think what we're looking for is we're looking for some sort of consensus. Like I said, you're not going to have a complete consensus, just so we can go around and identify what the groups are thinking
Are
about.
you best man?
No,
You're rogue.
nobody. Publicly,
Remember, keep vision forward in the back of your mind.
I do, because I got,
I'll just start
can I
with
get an
mine.
extra one, Donna?
I feel, I'll try to make it short and concise and make sure that
You're welcome.
as far as middle school as it's teaching, go for the 6-8 model, then we've got plenty of room in the spring garden to make that happen. If we go with the 6 to 8, we've got room for to house 3 grades of students. Bodie and Truman, we don't have the room.
On the boundary.
Flip side, those of you who, or those of us that think the 7
Just even out the opportunities in the school.
all 4 of those middle schools could do that, but you're not moving 6th graders back into
Hopefully
Lindbergh.
just
There's just no room to do it. So there's your conundrum. My thoughts on boundaries, until I but not the closing boundaries until we have full opportunities within us.
He couldn't be here today.
I don't, yeah, I don't, it's definitely not fair.
I was gonna email him back and say, you need to work on your handwriting, but I didn't think
I don't think it's fair to tell someone that they can't go to a certain school when maybe that's what it's. So until we get our high school at equal level of what's offered to us, it'll be hard for me to justify closing those boundaries. I know that school has, you're leaning toward, yes, this will be the best to do it, but boundaries are closed, so I can't.
For the buildings to
I think so, because I think in my perfect world, I think that probably should go to the school in the district, but it's hard for me right now to say that's the way to go when it's not equal. If we got to that point where I felt the high schools had all the same offerings, then I think I would be okay saying, you know what, this is your district, this is where you have to go.
Even do you think even if they provided like a hybrid model or like a joint model, like a RSBI, you want to do that, you can be on the same team and
I mean, I think that's what the conversation, I don't know, but I think that's what, I mean, I would want to listen to that. Things I don't like the idea of, I've heard the idea, well, if Central offers this and they don't offer that,
pros and cons of the city.
I don't think that's fair to the kids that have to zoom in. I think
Me,
in the class,
pro is in my transient, just because
yeah,
I
I mean, those are things that's hard for sure.
regret that I created that age, and then my own daughter is, she's over to voting now, and all honesty, I think.
Yeah, but mom and dad,
She
can't
needed
pay the rent,
to
and they have
over
over
a year ago. I look at my nieces and my nephews who were moved over to middle school a year ago.
So do you want to put that
And the
for,
difference in between the two kids is
There's an
extremely
argument for
vast. I just think that,
push everybody where they belong, so that we can justify a
it's
cost.
not only educational, and emotional,
that didn't
and
have parks, okay?
I'm worried
Kids had
that
like back then, Friday.
mentally, I think that
I think all we want
it just
is
makes
not
sense.
losing any more kids in this.
Since,
And I hate feeling like we were being held a little captive
and
by
then a
the city.
con
But
is,
then
there's a
Brett,
lot
well,
of
if you do this, then guess what?
and then a con is,
well, you
is
said
there's
it's legislatively open, I mean, it didn't pass, but they'll put it back on.
That's what scares me, is if we change boundaries to a point where it's going to really upset a certain area of town, that we lose more. And that's what I can't.
I think when we've talked about boundaries, I don't think we need to overhaul of the boundaries. A lot of it is just like I just keep thinking about when we looked at, so then that line comes all the way south of Frederick. And this is actually closer to Edison, which I know is kind of a whole other thing, but it's like, especially in the low income districts, if they don't get to school on the bus, they miss it, they ain't going, because they're not close enough. Or at least if those kids that live under Frederick, where they're only a couple blocks from school, not all the way up. And I think that when,
energy, right? Because there is
somebody, Bethany presented that, when they're only like a couple, like 3 or 4 households that were down there, like I don't think that would be crazy. I don't,
You know, there's human nature, human nature is to rebel against fire and line, regardless of where it's drawn. People are gonna be mad. From our point of view, we're not mad. We don't care. This is what we see. We're all products of the district. This has been left up since we were little. We've known this since we were here. You know, I was 12 years old, White Central, 1,600 kids. You know, if you have a 50, you know, there's no reason.
you guys,
You know, this is not a big enough town to be that way.
well, and if people really want resources, then
Yes.
we have to
Have to justify people when schools open, and the only way to do that is to push kids into them.
Well, that's where my problem is, because we're moving the
three schools, one school conversation tonight. We're talking about middle school.
Sixth grade.
So I agree, I agree that if we tackle this and we start bringing these kids and those kids, not only do we lose those students possibly, but we lose a lot of people in the city. Because the reason they're staying in school places is because their kids get to go to good school. But I also think in an equity that's not very fair to kids who live in those schools who don't get to be. So how do we do it without, I mean, we're gonna make something sad, but how do we do it without next,
Yeah.
like
That-
It's kind of like, the way I see it, if you're Bill Gates, you're social security, because you're
I reached out to
everybody gets,
people
and so
that are
everybody's
teaching sixth
angry.
grade, okay? One of them had been in the first year, which was fourth grade.
It's one of those, you guys are
He's back in the grade. He also put one of my classes. And the big thing they do not like is that the sixth graders are not in a group together, like in my mind,
well, that's the thing, is they
sixth graders, but if not that,
their
the
doors
sixth
to
graders
students
should
who are low income and
the
have
core
high
subjects should all be really
So-
close together.
for now.
But again, it goes.
And I know
to
one of their
learning.
biggest
It
issues
goes
was, well, we have all
into,
these kids who are English as a second language, we don't have the resources to deal with them. So I get it, like, we do it now when they don't have capacity to take them, but at the same time, it's, these people are gonna, they're gonna go beyond St. Joe and they're gonna say,
For confidence.
Sports and everything like that.
Teacher retention, so calmer, better classrooms, better classwork, so then, you know,
I wouldn't want my.
They have, a half of the, you know, right, yeah, I mean, so you'll have some potential there just because I feel like I'm slighted because I happen to be
So let's go back, let's talk a little bit more about, so you guys have, I'm just curious about preference.
Toss them on
7, 8
normal,
works better
yes,
than 6, 8, because it's funny, I originally came in thinking 6, 8.
intermediate, and that's
Talked to a lot of teachers.
I'll get you
I
some.
think that that's.
The reason I talked
Yeah.
about a few more teachers.
Oh, I thought
I see pros and
Transition,
cons,
yeah,
but
easing it into. We've already mentioned our cons on that.
They couldn't, they weren't really showing that they could wear their tail and all that, and everybody did. But they couldn't.
I mean, I know it's just, it says it is right now, I mean, it's a pro, and it,
but it didn't
guess
show
it
what it did to the K through 5.
issue
is that it's
their
already.
numbers, his numbers are skewed because he's right smaller. So making it work.
Exactly.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, that's what he said on the research, like, there's nothing that shows that 7-8 is better, 7-8 is better.
I think that's what we have to look at is our demographics and what, and I'm going back to the high schools, but what does our close look like? How many kids is each school gonna have and how many kids fall under that? Because if it's still gonna be lower, one is obviously gonna have more than the other because it's a bigger area. So we have to look at the demographics because I came from Oregon and they have a school that's K through 12 because there's only 800 people. So I think sometimes we have to stop looking at like, well, look at what Independence is doing, look at what Kansas is doing. It's like, no, what are we doing with the kids that we have? But I really wish we would sometimes, and I know you can't ask the customer how to sell it because really the student is, that's what we're taking care of. But I think we need to get their perspective sometimes because it's not just some kids want to get the classes that they want essential, because some kids are bullied in middle school and they don't want to go to the high school anymore. They feel safer going to another school, whether it means that their parent has to deal with a transportation issue. But we also are taking them we're taking that away from them. As I know you're comfortable going there, but now we are forcing you to go here.
Another thing,
Yeah.
Like, should it look different depending on what you do with the high school?
I think
I guess in my mind, if we got the high school to the point where, and I don't.
I agree about that.
You know, if we got the high school where
At the initial line,
one of the people that contacted me
transition,
said that one of the disadvantages was that graders in middle school didn't have the counselor staff that they have in elementary, nor did they have the designated library time that they had in elementary. That was, thought that was not a good thing. I mean, I never counted. I was tired there.
But I don't know. I don't know how this
I don't really know.
There was, yeah,
The numbers we had, they had a little bit of room, but those numbers were.
I just looked at
So that to me, South End, to me,
a rough year,
6-8 works
because there's no easing in.
because
It's you're just
it's alleviate, there's just
tossed in order to do
go back to
all the different classes and time management and extra. She has struggled all year with, she's actually just now maybe in the past 2 months grasping her mind to being a middle schooler, and she's almost in the 8th grade. I mean, and I just
Whatever, as long as their meter patterns
know that
stay the
a
same and they stay together as a whole.
transition year could
Things
have
aren't huge.
helped her a whole lot.
I guess
I
me,
think
it's like,
that was my number one too.
Right.
And that was, so I think that consistently across the table is what everybody wants is a balance.
About 2 minutes left.
We need to go down to this one, but I wish they had a. I've been all of that.
I defined it.
Oh,
oh, yeah.
And the research certainly
Those are
is,
buildings to save money, repurpose.
but it kind of leads more towards 6 to 8.
Within a reasonable margin.
But there's,
You can't have
exactly,
free and reduced lunch here, 20% free and reduced lunch here. You need
keep them into a area, easier. Yeah.
but that's, it's, we
But is
can't
that
have,
important?
well, right, we can't have both, we can't say like, we're worried about the money. Like, it has to be.
So, but here's the thing, is that they passed more money to teachers because they're funding with more experience, they need more money. So my thousand enrollment, I don't think
Mine was a true fear.
I mean, Julie was gonna say that and yeah, some more services, so that was where I was less, you know, we need 50% free.
Are you gonna get a backlash, even if they're small school, they have to do research, blah, blah, blah. But are you gonna get a backlash? Part of the issue that says, well, all your trouble, they're putting it all together.
Here's my thing, when you, and I understand that, but here's my other thing. And I don't see that to be. What do you guys have to?
But closure buildings.
Right, well, my grandma was across the street from Jeep. We went, I mean, we were already in,
I had feeder pattern.
but if we weren't, my mom could like,
And then you had,
Yeah.
So my thing is,
she dropped us off, we walked across the street,
you're right
we
that
walked from my from school to my
we can't stick all of the Title I kids and give them all the resources to them because then it's like, well, you're segregating them in a sense, right? Kind of like, yeah, kind of like what happens with the kids that we send to Webster that are principals that have IEPs, but their aggression is super
Yeah, I
high.
feel like you're gonna make, oh,
Right, you're just putting it there and like, hey, we're gonna deal with it on the side.
that's not what it's.
I don't think. And that, it leads me to, and I'm not saying that we're not all smart and capable of coming up with a plan, but at some point we might have to spend $200,000 and have somebody with that manpower, that brain power to look at all the data, look at everything that we're dealing with and say,
I agree, the only thing that worries me about that is can it be somebody who somehow has a little bit of.
Other schools are not also doing that.
Like, it's good to bring something in there that's all.
I didn't know.
how St. Joe, yeah.
Add on and do that. So I don't.
I mean, there's,
and I think this is.
And they vary and everything like that only.
I didn't get
But my thing is, do we have somebody in the community?
A lot.
I mean, we, right, the vision forward. But that's the thing is, I think we all see the problem, it's just when we come down to what the solutions
I
are.
feel like if it goes along with it, it brings up.
Right,
Brings up.
and that's why I'm like, if we're
Isn't that perfect?
6 to 8, or 7 to 8 kids,
I
and
would
we
agree
want
with-
to do their boundaries, how is that gonna affect the elementary? How's that gonna affect the
Perfect can't be the
How
I mean, that's the problem.
And my thing is, I think, if we, okay, wait, you guys have.
But you're not even able
Assistant middle school.
to like that unless.
Mine was a streamlined of resources.
Yeah, I put the way I found that, it's like really the only way to streamline is to put them in one spot, and that's not our goal. And so I threw that one out completely.
Well,
I didn't even.
when I saw that, my thing was like every school consistently has the same type of
To me, that's
culture.
not streamline. That's equity.
But my thing is that that's not.
Streamlining.
I'll give you a couple more minutes, seems like you're still discussing, so.
But the other thing for me is, I don't think every school.
it's not like that, but like when the kids went to church, my next door neighbor
The
ran
field does
daycares.
not mean.
I think that everyone's it's not like that, everyone's not
Very.
daycare.
You know what I mean? So to me, the streamline of resources.
Yours is enrollment balance, that's your number one.
Well, that's the thing is if we do the enrollment balance, we don't have the 500 kids stuck in there. We spread them out and Lakewood, or then, Fields might be a social worker if those kids. So
My
that
thing is, if we want that to, you're still not gonna pull this. I mean,
Feeder pattern was my number two.
See, yours
My
is
number one was this.
never gonna be able to get.
Dream one out of
pretty
kids.
close to really close.
Is there, is that rental stop?
Streamline.
I don't know.
I think that at the end of the day, that's
Well, I think a roll-out balance allows.
If you try to spread it out.
What do you say same zoning, Kyle, it's been,
So that means that there's.
But that's what I'm saying, that we shouldn't do a crazy swoop over the other way.
Elementary
Can
school,
you,
like an NFL
can you
draft.
elaborate on that?
You had very, very smart kids near the bottom, and each school gets to pick. And you just, by the end of the day, all your schools are buying. They don't live anywhere near each other.
There was three
But it's each
central boundary went by that.
That's
It's
what
because
I'm
they put that in to keep the builders out.
Yeah, a
And
lot
it's
of
been
that.
that way forever. From all of our point of view, it's like, it's effed up.
Well, that's the thing, that's how it's like, well, here we are talking about 6 through 8 and closing high school boundaries, but what does that really even look like? If we have those scenarios where it's still messed up here and down here.
High school life, I mean, if you really think about it, it's easy to draw high school. The three high schools are divided themselves, you go here to here until you get 1,000 kids, you go here to here until you get 1,000 kids. Everybody else is this is gonna be 1,200 to 1,300, these two are gonna be 1,000, problem solved. Everybody's gonna just explode when that happens. Because you can't, people are
so how would you,
Yeah,
issue.
Well, but I think the thing is, like, what's the better way to do it, whether it pisses people off or not?
Right. And the right thing to do, whether or not you make people angry, if you have a reason why you did it.
Right.
That's what matters.
shut these groups down, dude, I'm done.
That's all.
So here's what we decided.
We had some boxing gloves right now.
I'm interested to see what administration used, what the principals came up with, and then what we came up with, because I think sometimes when we don't have the data, so we haven't even actually agreed on certain things. So,
They don't live anywhere near the school they go to.
Trained.
Those principals complain to me too.
Oh, yeah. First pick in the draft. First kindergartner.
Gary, come on up, you're on the clock.
but that's the
Come
thing.
on, shaking hands, put a limber hat on.
You wore your hat, yeah.
Hugging kids on you.
So that's why I'm like, maybe some things. we can
Gabe's
do
right there shaking hands, taking
to
pictures.
see what it'd be like.
I think we're on
real
this.
fast, but- And maybe we can do something where we're just working with the person.
Okay, all right, if you go back to your original seat.
For like, we've probably been around.
I did like 7 of these.
Hey, hey, hey.
I don't, that was mine. Listen, it's 3 o'clock, I've had like 4 things.
Yeah, I just got it. I just reached it.
At least this isn't being televised. Oh, good lord.
Yeah, I know.
Are we supposed to turn these things in?
Okay, so was there a group that come up with a complete consensus?
we came close to kind of doing something like that.
Okay, good.
Um,
Good, so let's just kind of go down through here. We'll just start with number 1. David, what did your group say in regards to number 1? And I know this is just obviously,
Well, it was just equity is what it boiled down to. And then, equity and a feeder pattern. I
okay?
think that's what we came to, is that right?
When you guys talked about equity, are you referring to like the same thing for everyone or certain resources that certain schools need?
Yeah, we touched on a little bit of all that. And then one was also the feeder pattern too. Because if we get the boundaries right, I think we can hone in on the feeder pattern, and which is, I think, was important to all of us as well.
Well, I think that Whitney's point is very, it's a very good point because those are two very different things.
Yeah.
Okay, equity and equity of offerings is two different things. And that really needs to be defined in this whole process because you'll hear groups talk about it and they're talking about equity amongst you
Like
know,
everybody
like
getting the-
socioeconomics, and then they're talking about everybody being able to take the Algebra 2 class at the same time with only 7 kids. Those are two different, very different things.
Equity of opportunities and equal opportunities.
Yeah.
You know, that equity means you might have to have an extra this in here to make it equal with that.
But I think if you get the numbers right in each individual school, that also goes into equity because, you know, one school's not short-staffed, you're not overwhelmed with an abundance of students. So I think we touched on it more on that aspect, although we got to Whitney's point later in the discussion when we got to 3, streamline resources and opportunities. But you guys got anything else to add?
It was more equity in the educational opportunities. Equity and equality are not the same thing. It will be opposite offerings. I mean, equity, it's where you get the things you need in order to be able to grow. And that means that every school could be different, okay, but you're equitable in your offerings, education.
Well, and I think the boundaries and academic services folks can kind of help me on this. I think a lot of that, the boundary issues that we face create that problem. It's not that we don't want to offer calculus at Lafayette or Benton. It's not that we don't want to offer the highest class you can from a science standpoint at one of the other ones. It's that we don't have the students sign up to make the class, and then it looks like we are not being equitable among students.
We really spent most of our time talking about the middle school and the principals and teachers being able to allow, decide like whether there should be open enrollment or not. We didn't really get all the way to that high school level where you're having trouble finding the offerings for each class. We spent a lot of time on how they were going to be, how they get there, and what schools are specific.
Well, I think that defines how you can fix it. You know, you were looking at the things to fix it because it'll fix itself if you do it right.
I also think the public support would be, I think we could turn a corner if there is the true equity, like, and I'm guilty of this too. I'm fighting for my people right now. I'm fighting for the North End, I'm fighting for Lafayette, and yeah, I want the other schools to do good too, but I want mine to do better, and I always feel like I got a chip on my shoulder because of the hand that is dealt does prevent us from having those extra courses and things like that. And sometimes I feel like in the district, now we're making decisions based on the mistakes of the past with using the term equity, and it like reminds me of a kid who wants a new car, so they wreck their car so their parents can buy a new one. And the kids that are at high school want to take calculus. It's not their fault that 30% of the school population are poverty students coming from other areas of town. And so, yeah, I just think there could be a public support offering the courses. It just all starts with doing the right thing. It really does.
If you right size the district, those things fix themselves.
Yes.
Everybody has equal opportunity because the schools have the right amount of students in them to justify spending the money to have those people there to offer those classes to everything else.
One thing we have to think of too, and it's everything kind of intertwines with everything, is if we get it equitable between, let's say high schools, we get it equitable between 3 high schools, now we have enough kids in each school that want to take Algebra 2, we got to have 3 algebra teachers now that are able at each school who can teach that too. So it goes back to our teacher and our retention.
But you're also probably going to be able to recruit better teachers if they're not going into shenanigans. At least hopefully.
Do you think that you could recruit 3 teachers right now? One for each school? Okay, calculus. Could each school have it?
Probably not. Could we? Yeah. Lara says yes.
I mean, the dual credit thing's the hardest thing, right? I mean, that's where you have to get approved by Missouri Western or whatever. I mean, that's the hardest to find people. But, yeah.
Okay, all right, let's move to number 2. So let's talk about, just give me some pros for 6-8 model. And one thing that I would tell you is that from the 6-8 model, the way we do it now is not the right way to do it. And so I think you have to think about the 6-8 model doing it right. And we spend a lot of time talking about making it right. So just so you know.
Can you talk about some of the details on
Yeah,
that?
Larry can. What are the details that need to be done in the 6-8 model to do it right?
Yeah. Well, currently we run just like junior high, so we're replicating a high school. And a middle school model is that you offer teaming is probably the biggest component that helps. So it's really it's a school within a school or a community of schools. You also have an advisory program. You have typically intramural program in addition to the athletic side of it. So there's just a bunch of different pieces that support more of a, I guess, a collaborative group of community of learners versus just going in and doing a 7-period day.
So teaming would be
Teaming is the biggest.
yeah, the key word.
I think you could have a little bit, a 3-year period with students versus a 2. You could build some
Oh, sure.
better relationships. I think that's an obvious pro.
And I think you know them as learners better. I mean, so they're in and out right now in some of the settings, but you have an opportunity to really know them as learners. Even in the middle level, if you loop some of those courses, that's even better. So
I think that, Jeff, you make a good point. And Lacey, would you agree with this, that I think in the principals meeting, that was the biggest thing, was the relationship piece. That was key.
Are the 6th graders in right away, or are they, like, in the 7th and 8th grade classes, do they stay in their own 6th grade classes?
they have, everybody has their own coursework, 6, 7, and 8, they're singles.
But everybody is defined. 6th grade is defined as 6th grade, 7th grade is defined as 7th grade, and 8th grade is defined as 8th grade.
You can also structure
Have
your
their own
building
pieces of
of
building.
just location to make, like if we have, you could have
Anything?
6th grade wings, 7th grade wings, and 8th grade.
Well, I talked to 6th grade people that are doing it, okay? And one of the things that they brought up, other than like having the core subjects all together, would be they questioned like in elementary model, the 6th graders get to have a weekly counselor visit and thinks that would be beneficial to continue just because they would be in middle school, and they also thought that a designated library time that they weren't having, you know, just like the elementary model. Those things should carry over.
There's a comprehensive school guidance counselor model thing.
I keep looking at you, I didn't look at somebody
Look
else.
at the
now.
counselor. Look at the counselor, and I can answer the later.
No, I would agree. I think that what you see in our middle schools where we have 6th grader, that is the middle school counseling model. They're not in there every single week. And I think it just kind of depends. There's nothing that says that we couldn't pick that up if we put 6th graders into middle school. I think it would be pretty difficult to do that 6, 7, and 8.
Right,
But
right,
it's to
but
help
you
with
think
that
the
transition.
continuation of what's
Absolutely.
going on in elementary school would be good because of their developmental whatever. Okay.
So we're in kind of a unique position in St. Joe where we have both going on right now. Do we know, or can we, I know they're kind of different demographics between where they're at, but as far as Truman and Bodie, what are some things that really work with the 7th and 8th model? And at Rubidoux and Spring Garden, what are some things that really work with those models? And maybe what are some challenges? I mean, coming from someone that's not in there and seeing it daily.
I think the biggest difference is not necessarily the 7th and 8th, but the 6th graders. And going back to the pros, if we do choose this model, I think we need to really paint a picture of what this model looks like. Because what our model is not what it looks like. And I don't think we would have the support to continue down that path with what our model looked like. Going from what our experience is, I have yet to see a situation in high school to where you could tell a difference like this kid's a lot boy, you could really tell that the ones that went to middle school in the 6th grade are further along than the ones that stayed in elementary. And actually what we've kind of seen is the opposite as far as that. So, yeah, we've kind of had that experiment, but again, it goes back. Ours was done for the wrong reasons. It had nothing to do with student achievement or what's best from students. I'll say it out loud again. It had to do because it was easier to move those kids into 2 middle schools that were under capacity than it would have been to redraw the feeder program to feed the kids in to make those schools to capacity. We did it for the wrong reasons. Not saying that model can't be successful, but we've got to paint a picture of what that model really is as opposed to what we've made it.
And I think the research proves, Rick, that both of them can work, obviously, and 5 through 8 can work. So there's a lot of, and I think you just, like I said, back to the point where you just have to do it right. You have to do it right for St. Joe, period. And it's hard for us to compare where the 6th graders are at in an elementary setting right now, and I said that earlier just because of it's not equitable.
Can you talk about like spatially what can support like Spring Garden, the middle schools, like what they have?
Yeah, well, if we went to a 6-8 model and just know that you have about $85 million worth of no tax increase bond issue, if you go to a 6-8 model, you're gonna have to spend money. If you kept the 7-8 model, you probably don't have to spend a whole lot of money. But I don't think it's about spending money.
But where would those 6th graders,
Yeah, I
like
mean,
they
we're-
can't go back into Lindbergh?
Well,
You know what I
you
mean?
probably would have to build on to Hosea. You'd have to build on to some elementaries.
No, you just redistribute.
Well, I still don't know that redistributing would work if you put all the 6th graders back in the building. You think it'd work?
We have a lot of elementary capacity available.
But I think part of the problem, we talked about this in our group, is that so many of those, the rental stock and the housing stock is so tightly centered in one area, so saturated in one area, that I think it's gonna be hard to just put them back to where they're closest.
Yeah, because there's no way Hosea and Hyde could take back their 6th grade. I mean, it's just, there's no room, so.
But Hosea needs to be redistributed anyway.
Right.
I guess
So
that would
you'd
be
have to build
my
something
thought. I mean,
like
if you're thinking 6/8's the way to go, you're gonna have to come up with the short-term plan for it, and then kind of like what you're talking about, I think, like what is the long-term plan? I assume that's 4 in different parts of town.
Well, I think so, and I think that you could build one new one, and then the issue is, do you want it to be, how many students do you want it to be? That's the next thing. Because that's gonna drive what you need from the other buildings. Ruben and Spring Garden are pretty good buildings, but if you did it right, then Spring Garden could easily be an elementary school, which is what it was built to be. But I don't know that those discussions are for today, but I mean, I'm happy to elaborate on it. But, that fixes your middle school, or that fixes your elementary bottleneck in the south end. That's what's doing it. That's doing it right. But that's where the middle school would have to go.
So when you and your staff were talking about those 4 questions, what was the answer? Came to the top of mind that needed to happen first?
The middle school model? First, you just need to tell us what, I mean, I think we had to pick what model it was. And we even had some 7-8, to be honest with you. Ashley was one of those. She can tell you why, I guess. So it's not like it was, that everything was unanimous.
Well, I think the big thing we talked about is that if you're a 6th grader in this community right now and your parents move, from one week to the next, your school is very different. And so that's an issue. I mean, because it is much different if I'm in an elementary than I'm in a middle school.
And you guys might say, well, surely that doesn't happen very often, but we have a high mobility rate in the north end.
Yep.
And think about it, people moving in Pershing and moving into
Well, that's the
Lindbergh.
second time I've heard Robert say that, and he also said it about the grade schools it happening a lot the last time. And that was, what, 2 years ago when we talked about
Yeah,
what
I
we
don't
should
talk
be
very
doing.
much, but I say the same thing as well.
I remember. So I think it's very important that we
Yeah, they are.
consider, I think it's very important we consider where that's happening. And I think they know where it's happening and that those students are able to consistently stay in a school. Even if there's some hardcore reason that the boundaries have to be set in stone, which I'm a pretty gray person, but then those students that we know have high mobility, they need to be considered, because the most important thing for them is consistent education, and those teachers that are in their lives every day, and the principals and the people that are in their buildings.
Well, and I think there's decisions like that we have to make educationally every day. And then we're doing something right now for mobility that most people probably have no idea we're doing. But it doesn't make any difference because we're doing what's best for kids. And we have a mobility route. There's not a whole lot of students that are taking advantage of it right now. But let's say you have a student that's on the north end. And we have a lot of students moving to the south end right now. And so instead of picking that kid up and forcing them to go to Hosier, go to Hyde, or wherever they're moving into, let's go ahead and leave them in Lindbergh. We'll run a bus route that covers Carden Park, Lindbergh, Hosier, and Edison, and it just circles that area. It's called a mobility route.
So are you trying to figure this out for the fall, or is there a possibility that there could still be sixth graders that are split between?
It would be the following year.
So
It'd be 24, 25.
So you have time to think
Yeah.
through this.
I think really
not enough time to build. Enough time to try to do something.
you could
But
have
not enough time to
get
build,
started,
right.
yeah.
You know, Robert said about how it looks different in the buildings, and I know it was 2 years ago, they were gonna actually move Pershing sixth grade into Rubidoux as well, and that affected my students, and just from my standpoint, I was ready to take my child elsewhere. So I do think that it looks so much different, and we can see what the success levels are. I know we've said that there are socioeconomic differences. There are between some of the elementaries, but when you consider, Edison, Mark Twain, when you consider all of those, you could probably find a pretty good sample of what attendance differences there are, what performance differences that there are.
Oh, there's no doubt. I mean, the proof is there. But I would argue a little bit with you that you can't compare what you were talking about moving your student a couple of years ago to Rubidoux. We were doing it on a whim just to make something happen, and we weren't doing it right. I think if you do it right, there's no argument. I really believe that.
But the teaming aspect is it's gonna take more staff members, right?
Absolutely.
So is that realistic?
Not right now.
It would be great if we could do that 7-8, which is what we had 6 years ago. I think it would require more staff for 6-8. I personally think sixth grade should stay in elementary. I think they have a stronger sense of community when they are in the elementary school. Attendance data shows that they perform better at elementary when they're in sixth grade. So those are the reasons I advocated for remaining with 7-8. Also, Bodie doesn't have the capacity. Truman doesn't have the capacity. And so to me, if we're going to put dollars into something, I would rather it be high schools or something that's going to draw folks to our community.
Yep.
That's what I heard.
I will say that, and I'm just one person, but I remember, I went back and forth on the 6th, 8th, 7th, 8th, but remembering way back when I was in 6th grade, I don't remember having any hurry to get out of elementary into middle school. I mean, I think it's okay that they're still there, but like we said, there's benefits and cons to everything, and maybe doing it right, but I just know myself being in 6th grade
Well, one of the things that we
Pretty good
talked about,
time.
our group
good time.
Good time.
was,
Start liking girls.
was the fact that at some point in their 6th grade year, a lot of kids are ready to do more things, like be part of a 6, 7, 8 band concert, or maybe an extracurricular type thing. Is there something where we could have more emphasis on, they go to 6th grade in an elementary school setting, but maybe work harder to try to bridge the gap between 6th and 7th grade at a different building where maybe they're spending a little more time in that environment, but still staying in the elementary schools?
Gotta get your feet back and find it.
Right.
I think there's opportunity
Yeah.
there too, to have the sixth graders be leaders and be mentors for the younger grades. I think that would be an opportunity for those kids to demonstrate those leadership skills before they go on to middle school.
And I think that definitely happens now.
It
Well-
does a little bit.
well, you
but I
probably
think
see it
what
in
we're
Purdy.
saying is maybe there's more opportunity
Yeah.
there to do more of that.
Yeah.
Be nice to bring the middle schools and the elementary schools a little bit closer together as well. I mean, when you talk about community and maybe strengthen the whole system a little bit.
Since it doesn't seem so clear cut, I guess my question would be, is there opportunity just to engage the public and see what they say? in this?
See, and that's what I asked, and I think I even brought that up in our meeting. I did not know that Vision Forward was strictly 6-8. I thought Vision Forward was make sure we do something that's consistent. But I do think that was the message that Vision Forward sent was 6 to 8 model.
When we had our group, we talked about different things. If you did this, then it would affect middle school this way, but if you did this with elementary school, it would affect middle school or high school this way. So could DLR put together like a couple different options? Because I think the problem is we're not gonna get to perfection, but if we can at least get some consistency and make some progress, make it better, like it's not gonna be ideal for any of, you know what I mean? Like it's just.
Yeah, no, yeah, and that's what, I'm just gonna send them the link to this meeting today and providing the documents. But yes, that's, at the end of the day, they're gonna provide options.
Okay.
It's not just gonna be, we're not gonna send them one option and be done with it. But I didn't want 47 options.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where we were at with what the direction they had taken us the last time. Not that they did anything wrong, but we're asking something different, I think, this time.
One of the things too with the 6-8, Jeff, you talked about the relationship piece, and that came up in a lot of our conversations. If you look right now, 8th grade is one of our lowest attendance grades. If that relationship piece is better, maybe that helps fix that issue a little bit too.
See, I think it'd be good, just because even the difference of opinions, even amongst the committee and staff, even, you know, it doesn't have to be the outside, but even local presentations, hey, we feel strongly about this model, and then this group comes up and we feel strongly about that, and present that to the community and see what, you know.
I think if you're gonna do something like that, then administration needs to pick two options that they know they can work with.
Yeah, and we can work with either one.
You wanna get public feedback, like,
That's what it sounds like.
very
Oh, absolutely.
specifically, like, what that looks like, you know? Picture.
I don't think you're gonna get something that says this is right and this is wrong.
Right. Nobody's gonna tell you what to do.
So
No,
then why not?
I mean, I really think that both models will work. We administratively just need a model. You tell us what to do and we'll make it happen.
And see, then why wouldn't you ask the community and see what, you know, because I think I felt the same way you did, that it was more, it just needs to be consistent.
Yeah, that's what I thought too. I didn't go to all the meetings. And they said, I even asked the administration, and they felt like it was 6 through 8.
The time is 2:58. We didn't get to the next section, but it was good discussion. I think maybe we want to go ahead and close it out so we can start our next meeting on
Hey,
time.
David, can I do this? Can I ask you to have each person in here email me their thoughts on open enrollment? I just want to know your thoughts. Does it need to go away? Does it need to stay? And then the rest of the stuff, I
Permanently or
think.
for next year or
For a certain.
Yeah, what certain time period?
The same time that the boundaries change.
That makes sense. Okay.
I think it needs to happen together, don't you?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay. Good discussion. It's still 2:58. We'll go ahead and adjourn the meeting at that time. Thank you very much.
Thanks, David.
Thank you.